Greetings. We have a new lesson from the Master of Communication. I'm Russ Hatfield, and Kara, who's behind my shoulder, is my high-dimensional twin soul and member of Ashtar Command on Hades Base. This lesson is called Proper Wording from the Expert and is given by the head of communication for Ashtar Command, and thus he knows a lot about the subject. Here, Korton gives us a dissertation on the importance of the wording to be used in the upcoming conference between the various races who interact with our planet. Unfortunately, a powerful CB radio is heard in the background that gets louder about halfway. It's annoying, but the information Korton shares is worth dealing with the interference. Please subscribe if you want at the end of this video to be alerted to future channeling sessions, editorials from Kara and myself, and lessons from the Center for Ascension. And now, proper wording from the expert.
Greetings and felicitations, Russ. It is an honor and a pleasure to be able to participate in these upcoming discussions. As a communicator, I am honored and delighted to have so many individuals willing to participate and sacrifice their time for the common good of all. Tonight I will not give my usual dissertation on communication, as my esteemed colleague Munker will be handling that. So therefore, I will answer any questions, as it is my duty as a communicator to expedite questions that you may have and answer as best as may be answered. So therefore, without delay, let us address these questions that are formulated.
Fair enough. As in the communication that we're discussing, I have one question, as in, can we simply tell the world that the major races are uniting in talks, and so should we?
Let it happen naturally. It is necessary for people to come to their own conclusions without having one point of view represented. The purpose of these talks is to look at all points of view and come to a neutral ground. Certainly, it is a model for development on your planet in the communication and linguistics abilities of races that have had very frictional interaction, pulling together as one to achieve a common goal. Certainly, it would be very useful to tell the whole entire populace of your planet of what is going on. However, this would not serve the function that is necessary for the spiritual growth, that it has to be done through word of mouth, so that at the appropriate time, when individuals are looking back to the early inceptions of these negotiations, on how they progress, and use them as a teaching and learning tool, not as a model on how to, but as a way of a possible format for discussions. And in doing so, it will give them an option to achieve a better harmony and in turn increase the frequency of the light beings that they all are.
I see. Okay. And on that same note, in finding the common ground in these talks as a starting place, I'm trying to find out what is the first acknowledgement each race should make. For example, in a similar view, using the Earth as example, we would acknowledge that we were a humanoid bipedal life form inhabiting the same planet.
Yes, that works if you are thinking in your racial consciousness. But if you look at all the different races that are participating, you will see that you have group consciousnesses. So therefore, to say we is inaccurate. If you take the Arturians, for example, we as a whole is I. So when one talks, I talks for all. But it is one person linked in a group consciousness. So, when discussing from your point of view that you are a humanoid, bipedal, carbon-based life form, you are referring to you as one. That is your point of view. Even though you represent all of your planet, it is hard to compare your thought process to an individual that is one individual, but it is all individuals of that race. The Arcturians, being a group consciousness, think differently than you do. So it is necessary to interact with a group consciousness, even though it is one represented individual, with an open mind that they do not look at things the way that you do. Having never been a member of a group consciousness, it is hard for me also to comprehend, but I try and understand that their points of view are very different from mine. Their needs are very different from mine. So that is the first hurdle that is necessary to cross. Again, another group consciousness, although broken down into different groups, is the Zeta Reticulans. They are a group consciousness. And again, their outlook is different from yours. The fact that they're an emotionalist group consciousness, again, makes it very different. All existences are equal and must be looked at as equal. It is no, I am better than you, you are worse than I. You are all equal. So that is the first footing that needs to be negotiated. As a communicator, I could lay out well what would be the ideal setup, but it is necessary for all elected representatives that participate in these discussions to come to their own conclusions and work out their own objectives. Next question, please.
Okay. With the third dimensional biases and prejudices that we're bound to come up against, it's best then that with the knowledge that we're all equal, that we all find ourselves on that common ground. But still, when those do pop up, the prejudices and the biases, how best can we deal with those? In what manner?
It is hard to say as we have an idea on what those biases may be. But until they occur, it is hard to say. We have positions that we take to deal with each situation as it occurs.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, on that same level, most people, and I'm sure races themselves, tend to fear what they do not understand. How can that understanding be provided without direct interference?
Through discussions that we are planning to hold. You see, part of the problem of all these races that are involved is a certain amount of fear. And by discussing them, we get to know them better and they get to know us better. As a representative of the Brotherhood of Light, I'm given the opportunity to represent my group. Although I will not be representing myself, but if I had been given that honor, I would have to think very carefully and be open-minded to the other differences and unknown factors of the participants and representatives of the other races.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now I and the others see the Zetas and other races as being separate from us physically and mentally. Are we actually one, but with different selves and many bodies?
For the Zetas, that is more true than for you. And again, for the Arcturians, that is more true than for you. By your wording, you are saying they and us as if you were a group consciousness. And they, yes, are a group consciousness. You are not. So therefore, it is very important to be able to word things that is understandable for all parties involved, and carefully, as was stated in previous discussions. An inflection, one word, can slow the whole entire process right down. So, by wording things carefully, it is necessary to take your time in formulating these answers, to think things through carefully.
Okay. And in that same spirit, you're correct. In that, as I mean one, as in all of us being a part of, while we're not the same race, but we're all consciously connected, not on a group conscious, more almost a galactic conscious as one.
You are referring to your galaxy's group consciousness.
Correct.
And the interactions of all groups.
Right.
That is something that is different and spiritual. The individual wills of the races involved is not part of the group consciousness of your galactic unit. You must remember there are many, many millions and billions of galaxies. So each galaxy has its own consciousness. Let us start at the bottom of the consciousness progression.
Okay.
And in itself, that comment is an explanation on wording. And I will word things carefully to give you an idea on how the wording will be done by our representative of the Brotherhood of Light. A being has a consciousness. A group of beings of the same ethnic background have a race consciousness. A collection of races has a planet consciousness. A collection of planets has a sector consciousness, similar to an ethnic consciousness. A collection of sector consciousnesses make up a galactic consciousness. All are separate, but each is a step up or down from the other. Notice the wording in these comments. There is no derogatory terms for any of the races involved, but yet it achieves the progression that is necessary in the explanation. You see, one of the challenges facing the ambassador is learning that words are very, very powerful. As has been stated frequently tonight, one wrong word can delay many, many of your hours of hard work. So it is important to be very cautious and careful in these progressions.
So our talks will affect each part of that ladder of consciousness.
Correct.
So how do we make the necessary mental leap that would make that so?
Slowly and cautiously, by listening to what is said and worded and how it is worded. Tonight's speakers have all worded very carefully what they are trying to say. Myself, and I can speak only for myself, I weigh each comment and sentence and paragraph very cautiously. Because to say something that is a double meaning can leave it open to interpretation and therefore open to incorrect data, which leads to problems. So, as I have stated in the past, it is important to talk crisply and clearly and to be able to be understood.
Mhm.
Where this is a good explanation is bear. Am I bear or am I a bear? Or whether, as has been used in the past, whatever the weather does is not whether it does, is whether or not it is the weather.
Indeed.
Or another one, which? Do you have any more questions?
Just one. I am assuming at this point that this is all related back to Sedona when we first started our discussions with Roger.
It goes back much further than Roger. Roger played a very important role and will again play a very important role. It is a beginning that really had no beginning, nor will it have an end. To quote a comment earlier, actors will change, but the roles will continue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell.